I almost lost everything, and I'm gonna tell you exactly why. Before I can do that, you're gonna need some context. For this story, we need to go back in time. Okay, maybe not that far back. This story takes place in 8th grade. I have a friend, let's just call him Tony. Now, Tony and I both moved to a new school at the very beginning of the year. So since we relate to that, we kinda got close pretty fast. We both enjoyed recess, we both enjoyed classes, and we both enjoyed messing around in class. Considering this, we were very sociable kids. We made friends pretty fast. Although me and Tony were friends first, we made some pretty good friends along the way. Let's just call these friends Bob and Walt. Bob and Walt are a part of our new friend group, and we are hanging out almost every day. Tony and I are a little bit closer, but that doesn't stop all of us from hanging out together. The four of us go through middle school together. We go through 6th grade, 7th grade, and all the way to 8th grade together. We have countless sleepovers, we ride bikes, we play basketball. We do what all kids should be doing. When 8th grade hits, we get super excited, because with 8th grade comes the end of the year school trip. This is a school trip that everybody has been fantasizing about since the beginning of the year. New York, tall buildings, cute girls, Philadelphia, where Rocky was made. That's pretty much about it. Everybody is excited for this trip. The rules. Let's go back in time again. Once again, too far. See, our school has a very strict no violence policy. If you violated these rules, it was over for you, no questions asked. Throughout middle school, we've been pretty good. We didn't get suspended, we didn't get any write-ups. We were pretty decent kids. So we thought we were going to be able to go on this trip easy peasy. That is until one dark day. Now let's give you some context. My school did lunch and then recess. So every day when that bell rang, we sprinted to get to lunch. We just wanted to get outside as fast as possible to play our favorite game. What is that game, you may ask? Foursquare. Now everybody knows this game. It's a childhood's game. There's 4 squares, there's a ball, and you throw it. Now it sounds a little too simple when I say it like that, but it really is that simple. If the ball bounces twice in your square, you're out. This is what we played every recess, but there's a little catch to it. My school was pretty small, so everybody knew everybody. So when it came down to recess, everybody is hanging out together. There was no groups, there was no different parts of different games of different things. Everybody did the same thing together. This means that Foursquare was packed. You know what else that means? When you got out, you had to go to the back of the line. Take that into consideration. If you go to the back of the line, you could be out for the rest of recess. That's why this game was taken so serious. So it's just like any typical day, the bell rings, we run, we eat lunch, we head outside. Foursquare is starting to pick up, and I work my way to the first square. I'm in charge now. I start with the ball, and I'm feeling on top of the world. My friend Tony comes in, hot off the bench, ready to play. See, normally, my friends and I team up. We realize if we keep everybody in, we can just dominate and monopolize the Foursquare. Well, today was different. My friend decided he didn't want to just team up, he wanted to take over. Tony had revenge in his mind. Tony had chaos in his mind. Tony had anarchy. Tony had war. Okay, you get the point. See, the thing is, I didn't know about Tony's plans. I thought it was going to be like any other day. The game begins. I pass the ball to Tony. Tony slowly passes it to me. I slowly pass it back to Tony, and then Tony does the unexpected. In the blink of an eye, Tony spikes the ball right at my direction. No human would have had the reaction time to counter this. The ball lands, and before I can hit it out, it lands again. I'm out. I look at Tony in disbelief, expecting some kind of sympathetic stare back, but instead, I get a smug look on his face. Tony's proud of what he did. Not only that, so is Walt, and so is Bob. They all congratulate Tony, and Tony takes over spot 1. I am betrayed. I am mad, and I am confused. I confront Tony, And when I do, he doesn't take me serious. He starts laughing in my face. Now this angers me to a point where I do something that I still regret to this day. I take that Foursquare ball and I chuck it in his face. And with no hesitation, he looks over and charges me. You may be asking, what's happening now? No, it's pretty obvious. We're fighting. Tony is throwing rights. He's throwing lefts. He's trying to take me down while I'm trying to stay on my feet. Tony hits my shoulder. I dodge. Tony hits my neck. I dodge. These punches are getting harder and harder. Nobody stops him. Nobody does anything. And I'm covering up. Low-key in fear. Like, I'm kind of scared. Tony was a big dude. This only lasts about 15 to 30 seconds. It was over pretty quick. When the fight was over, Tony yelled some things. And then walked away. This was the last I ever heard from Tony. No, I'm just kidding. It's not. You'll hear in the story. When the fight was over, I instantly realized something. The 8th grade trip. The trip to all of our friends had so longingly, I forget what the word is, so longingly yearned for. It was about to be stripped away from me. Recess goes back to normal, and everyone goes back to what they're doing, which is playing Foursquare, of course. When I go inside to try to head back to class, I'm instantly called into the office. So is Tony. I see Tony in there, and we glare at each other. We both know what we're here for. I'm shaking. I'm sweating. I'm praying that I don't get kicked off the last year class trip. So is Tony. We are pulled into separate offices to talk alone to teachers. I explained my story, and I'm sure Tony explained his too. Then we watched the footage. The first punch. I'm sweating. I can't remember who threw the first punch. But then we see. It was Tony. Does that mean I'm okay? Yes. Yes, you are, says the teacher. I let out a big sigh of relief. I'm good. I'm gonna stay on the 8th grade trip. The last year trip. Then I look over, and out of the corner of my eye, I see Tony. He's not. You see, our school labeled this fight as an act of self-defense. I only hit Tony because I was hit first. Whether or not the ball hit Tony, whether or not I was provoked, whether or not he was provoked, he threw the first punch. I was let go of the office, and I walked past a crying Tony. Tony knew that he was gone. Days passed, and me and Tony haven't talked to each other since, because we both know how that conversation would go. I'm still hanging out with Bob and Walt, while Tony, he's grounded. It's at this point that I start to feel really bad, and my mom tells me, "You should go apologize to Tony, hon." And while I wanted to argue with her, she was right. Tony liked this trip just as much as anyone else, and I know it hurt him, knowing that he can't go on it. So I made a plan. After school, I was gonna march to Tony's house, and I was gonna mandate that we be friends again. Even though I was scared, I still went. And when Tony opened the door, you'll never believe what happened. He greeted me with a smile. What? Why would he greet me with a smile if I'm the reason that he's not on the 8th grade trip? He said, "Zach, I'm glad you're here." And just like that, all that feeling of uneasiness was gone. After that, me and Tony hung out, played video games, and then I had to leave before his mom came home, because he was still grounded, and he would have gotten in even more trouble if she knew he had a friend over while he was grounded. At the end of the day, Tony did not go on the 8th grade trip. But me and Tony made up. The 8th grade trip was a fun time. Sadly, Tony could not go. But me and Tony are still friends to this day, which happens to be 6.5 years later. Now, while this is an entertaining and funny story, there is truth to it. Don't let little things get in the way of big moments. Your family and your friends are more important than any little thing in the world could be. At the end of the day, you never really know what you have until it's truly gone. And enjoy the little things in life. Hey look, I got a house now.